Hello and welcome to another top 13 horror movie list. This time I'm gonna go through what I think are the top Asian horror movies. And since I don't want to repeat myself, I won't talk about the movies I've already talked about. You can check them out in my other lists if you want to. I hope you're ready for this. Number 13, Gwai, or The Eye. So this is a Hong Kong Singaporean horror film about a blind girl who gets a cornea transplant that allows her to see ghosts. She then embarks on a journey to find the origin of her corneas and to reveal the horrifying story of the previous dead owner. And there's almost countless remakes on this one, including an Indian one. The Pang brothers, which are the writers of this film, said that they were inspired to write the screenplay because of a 13-year-old news article that they read about a 16-year-old girl who received a cornea transplant and committed suicide soon after. And they'd always wondered about what that girl saw that made her want to end her life. I really like this film, and I guess to sum it up, I would call it a wonderful film with flaws. Number 12, Rampo Noir. This is a movie that you will definitely never forget. It consists of 4 disgusting and insane shorts that seem loosely connected at times. They were directed by 4 different directors, with one of them having the word rape in like 90% of his previous work. Pink films nonetheless, but you still know what he brings to the table. Either how, Rampo Noir is extremely violent and dark and kind of hard to make sense of. And these shorts are so sick that you really have to think about the writer behind the original stories. You know, he must have had a really twisted and disturbed mind in order to come up with these tales of torture and obsession and love. He actually had several of his stories banned in Japan for this exact reason. So, to conclude, Rampo Noir is a gorgeous, creepy, kinky to the extreme, as well as a beautifully conceived and well-crafted compendium of these 4 stories by Rampo. Number 11, Dark Water. This might just be the horror movie with the best setting and atmosphere ever. It is so creepy and mysterious all the way. It's about a woman going through a divorce who moves into a kind of a rundown apartment with her daughter. Strange and unexplainable things begin to happen and takes you on a haunted adventure like no other. Or maybe that's not quite true anymore, but at least it was when it came out. This movie is highly praised in most of the horror movie world, and it's not acceptable to not have seen it. It might not be the movie with the most jump scares ever, but little girls are fucking creepy, okay? Number 10, Kairo, or Pulse. The American remake compared to this original is a joke. Although it did kind of like getting Kirsten Bell to basically play Veronica Mars in a horror film because I'm a Veronica Mars fan, but as the story goes on, there's no doubt where it is best told. So this is a Japanese horror film that has received critical acclaim and now has a cult following. The plot centers on ghosts invading the world of the living via the internet. The movie is really a philosophical exploration of alienation and loneliness in modern existence due to technology. So it's deep. I think this movie is pure geniusness, and the only thing better than a movie that frightens you sleepless is one that disturbs you into depression. Entertainment Weekly wrote this: "Nothing in the 2 snail-paced hours makes close to a shred of sense." Number 9, Ringu. I remember when I was in elementary school and my friend's older brother showed me the crawling out of the TV scene, and I cried myself to sleep for weeks, and I saw pale creatures with long black hair crawling all over whenever it was dark. That was good times. But apparently this turned out to be the birth of my love for horror. That was like my first time getting scared like that, and honestly, I was hooked. But unfortunately, watching this film today, it's not very scary anymore. However, it is where the story of Samara or Sadako originated from, so it still deserves a lot of praising. It is of course originally based off a novel, which I have not read, but now that I think about it, I would really love to read it. But I don't know how similar the movie and the book are. The international success of this film launched a revival of horror filmmaking in Japan that resulted in films like The Grudge and Dark Water and Pulse, so let's thank Ringu for that. Number 8, Cure. So this is a 1997 Japanese crime thriller about a series of gruesome murders and the detective who tries to solve them. Personally, I think this movie has a very interesting and original take on the serial killer genre. I don't really want to spoil too much, as I think it needs to be experienced firsthand, but I think the subtlety and the fluidity of this film is remarkable, and I really love how they unfold the complexity of the characters. There's something just so so much more chilling about the evil in ordinary people than simply just having evil people. The point is not to scare you and wrap it all up neatly at the end like most American horror films, but instead to show you a possible world and then scare you after the film with thoughts of what might come. Tom Mess from The Midnight Eye said The Cure was a horror film in the purest sense of the word, and I agree with that. Number 7, Noroi. So this is like a Japanese mockumentary. I think one of the very few Japanese found footage horror films. I have to say that it's unusually long and complex for the genre, but it still seems as though the movie found favor with most critics. The plot is about a paranormal expert who produced a series of books and documentaries on supernatural activity around Japan. The movie then explains that he disappeared in the process of making his most disturbing documentary so far, and that his house burned down and that his wife was found dead inside. Then the aforementioned movie starts. So this is not a gory movie with a lot of scary visuals and jump scares. It has more of an underlying creepy factor throughout the film, and that's exactly what I loved about it. Number 6, The Host. I really like this one. It's a South Korean monster film that the Americans haven't tried to ruin yet. They planned for a remake in 2008 and were still working on it in 2011, but as of 2012 there were no updates on this production, and there still is none. The reason that I like this movie so much was because of the monster. I love monsters. It just thrills me so much. It's one of South Korea's all-time box office leaders, and it received international critical acclaim, which might have been why they decided not to make a remake. The story was inspired by a chemical leak that happened in the year 2000, and the monster by a deformed fish that was caught in the Han River. I also think the monster is cute, and I want to have my own so I can ride it around. Number 5, Battle Royale. I love the concept of this movie. Teenagers forced to fight each other to death, using whatever they might have in hand. This is an adaptation of a novel by Koushin Takami, and both the film and the book have received great reviews. There are a lot of movies that are said to have found inspiration from this one, like Kill Theory, The Tournament, and The Hunger Games. It is also said to have had some influence on Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill films. Takami actually finished writing this book in 1996, but didn't do anything about it until 1999, when he tried entering it in a horror novel competition and was rejected because the book was simply too controversial. Number 4, Gozu, the Takashi Miike contribution to this list. I'm just gonna keep calling him Takashi Miike for as long as I want to, even though I know it's not correct. So Gozu is a 2003 Japanese low-budget cult film that has a really confusing plot. We follow Minami, a man in search of his long-lost brother, in a complexion of bizarre scenes. It has had some success worldwide and received mostly positive reviews from critics like the New York Times, BBC, the Washington Post, and Rotten Tomatoes. Personally, I found this movie to be highly disturbing and yet strangely compelling. There are some parts where absolutely nothing makes sense, and moments where everything magically clicks together, revealing a world of possibilities. A horrible, absurd, funny, nightmarish fabric that should be woven into crotchless pants, breast milk, and cow head masks. Number 3, Strange Circus. So this is a sick and disturbing masterpiece, in my opinion. It's not your traditional Japanese horror, but it's still horrifying in so many ways. It tells the tale of a quite unfortunate little girl named Mitsuko and what it was like growing up in her family. The movie is a confusing and complicated thriller where the viewer is thrown right into a nightmare with no happy endings. It feels very much like the title says, a strange circus. And when I watched it, I went from thinking, this is disgusting, to this is a masterpiece, to this is horrendous, and back to thinking it was amazing. The movie is really motivated to tell its story, however weird it might be. Number 2, I Saw the Devil. So this is a superbly acted, grotesquely gorgeous South Korean psychological thriller. This one is about a secret agent seeking to avenge his pregnant wife who fell victim to a serial killer. The creators of this film were actually forced to delete 7 scenes in order to get theatrical release. It received generally positive reviews from critics and has had some international success. It's extremely violent and gory and disturbing, but it also has a great plot and deep, interesting characters. Personally, I find this movie to be haunting yet beautiful, and it's a very refreshing and original portrait of a serial killer. Rob Nelson from Variety said this: "Repugnant content, grislier than the ugliest torture porn, ought to have made this movie be unwatchable, but it doesn't. Simply because Kim's pick is so beautifully filmed, carefully structured, and viscerally engaging. Number 1! A Tale of Two Sisters. This is the plot twist movie of all time. And it doesn't really help much that the plot gets really confusing from time to time. It's a South Korean psychological horror film inspired by an old folk tale, which has been adapted into film many times. The plot focuses on two sisters who, after returning home from a psychiatric hospital, experience increasingly disturbing events involving both of them and their stepmother. The American remake of this one is actually watchable, but the original is honestly in a class entirely on its own. It received very positive reviews when it was released, and it was the highest grossing Korean horror film for a while. This is definitely my kind of film, and I love how I had to watch it a few times before I completely got the end. This is a real mindbender. Mentionables! I actually have 4 mentionables this time, so we have to make it a little quick. First of all, Marebito. This movie is cute in the weirdest way. It's about a man who is obsessed with fear, who finds a naked girl chained to a wall in an underground labyrinth. He takes her home and soon discovers that she is anything but human, as she doesn't eat, speak, or drink. I loved it. The next one I want to mention is Reincarnation. This movie I decided to put on there simply because I found it to be a good scare. It's a Japanese horror movie from 2005 about an actress shooting a movie in a hotel with a gruesome history. And of course the present is bound to collide with the past. I liked it because it was scary and interesting, and partially because of the dolls. They were not cool. So next up we have Rigor Mortis. I feel like this movie is just like watching a beautiful nightmare. It's interesting, original, and creepy as fuck. It also has some pretty awesome fighting scenes. I highly recommend this one, but don't expect too many scares. And the last one that I want to mention is Sadako 3D. Okay, so this one I wanted to include because it runs its own division. It's basically a modern version of Ringu, where the death video is a viral one. It's really not a great movie, but it does take the Sadako / Samara monster one bit further. It's just so intense that I find it entertaining to watch. So that was all the films that I had for you guys today, and I hope you enjoyed watching. Please leave a comment and a like and subscribe if you want to see more. Bye!